The back.
Still sore.
Still sore?
Yeah. It's all right, though.
You're not going to be doing any MMA anytime soon?
I'm not. I'm too old for MMA.
Are you?
Yeah.
You just shoot people?
I just can't wait, honestly, for this to heal up so I can get back to doing something. You know, when we met, I wasn't 215 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. I was only 180, man.
You was lifting weights and stuff then, too. But,
over the years, this back has taken its toll. So
mine's getting that way. But yeah, hopefully get back at least walking soon. Do some distance.
I'm waiting to see the surgeon. Once he says, you know, hey, go ahead and start walking, then I'll start walking and start doing some yoga and get back into weight training a little bit, but not like I was.
Usually walking and stretching is good for you no matter what.
Yeah.
But all right, we got a different kind of topic today.
What's today?
Serial killers.
Oh, my favorite.
Is it your favorite?
Actually, yeah.
All right. Do you read about them?
I do. I read more about them years ago when I first started getting into law enforcement because of a psychology course I took.
Right. So I've got an article here I was reading the other day. It's from Northeastern University. All right. They got a Northeastern Global News, pretty reputable.
Right.
Research here.
Yep.
They got an article that says, why are there fewer serial killers now than there used to be? All right. Let me go through some of the stats here.
Even if I don't believe it?
Yeah, we're going to talk about why.
Okay.
Why. All right. So you got it by the decades here. 1900s, 27 serial killers that we knew of, right?
Right.
This is ones that we know of.
Yes.
All right. 1910s, 31. It kind of stayed flat there all the way up until 1960s.
Right.
It jumped to 93. All right. Then the 1970s, it went to 286.
I know. There was a surge.
286 serial killers in 1970s. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was a baby.
Yeah.
I was born in 74. Then it stayed pretty good in the 80s, 259. Yep. And then 1990s, 198. And then we see a big decline, 2000s, 112, 2010s, 42. They don't have anything for the 2020s yet. But why do you think there is a decline?
Why do I think there is one?
Yeah.
I don't believe there is a decline.
But why do you think there's a decline in the ones we know about?
Because I think that the investigative tools have gotten better and people still stay sloppy, and they figured out that they weren't going to be able to hide it for long, and they started getting caught, and there's been a decline.
Okay.
I also think some psychological things has transpired to maybe quell that.
Like what?
Claim. Just things for mental health and stuff. Counselors, more availability, stuff like that.
So we're getting better on the mental health side of health.
I would say so. Yeah, in a supportive argument in that document there.
Well, this article says that overall crime has gone down, and it's surging with that. So, so here's the thing. Here's my thing. This is reported. This is what's reported.
Right.
Okay. This article seems to think that policing has improved and caused a decline. All right. Makes it harder for them to get away with it.
Oh, okay.
I disagree with that. You thought I was going to agree with you.
Strongly disagree with
you thought I was going to agree with you. I think technology has helped us catch killers faster and easier. All right. Instead of carpet fibers, we're using DNA now. So if DNA is left behind and you're in the DNA system, we're going to catch you pretty quick.
You don't even have to be in the system. Some relative just got to do an ancestry or 321Me or whatever it's called.
And we narrow it down.
Yeah.
And there we go. And also social media sleuths help a little bit. They do a good job. The amateurs do a good job of catching people. And, when a crime happens, you get these social media, what we call them social media sleuths, investigators. They're amateurs, but they get the word out, and the word gets spread quicker. It makes it harder to get away with a string of murders. All right. The Atlanta murders of 1979 and 81. How many did this guy end up killing?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember it was a big thing in the neighborhood. We heard about it all the way up in our neighborhood in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
28 children in a year.
Yeah.
Or a little over a year. Yeah. That's a lot. So I don't think somebody would get away with that many in today's marketplace with social media. They might get 2 or 3 and then they're going to get caught.
I don't think they'll get away with it in the same area.
Right. You'd have to move around.
Yeah.
That's what made Bundy so he did it in different places.
Yeah.
Made it hard to catch him.
He was slick, but he wasn't perfect.
What made him not perfect was he wanted the glamour and
notoriety.
He wanted notoriety. It went along with it because he's a smart guy.
Yeah. Ego goes a long way to getting you caught.
Yeah. A lot of them want to get caught. They want to play games.
They
and then
just want to see how long they can go.
They get that thrill.
Yeah.
I get thrills out of watching my kid do great things on her horseback competitions. I get thrills from seeing our business do good. Those things. These guys and girls, there's girls that did it.
Oh yeah.
Get thrills from watching people breathe their last breath.
Yeah.
Playing with the cops, those kind of things. It's crazy. They have a different mentality.
And there's male and female.
Yeah, there are. Not as many females. It's usually white dudes.
The most noticeable one or most infamous one would be Eileen Warnos.
The monster.
Yeah, down in Florida.
Yeah, she was the most popular, but women do get that thrill out of it. So back to this article. 2010s, we only have 42. I think social media, and he said in between 1980 and 92, that's when we saw this 1980 and 1992. That's when we saw the spike, right?
Right.
The incarceration rate in federal and state prisons was more than doubled to 332 per 100,000 U.S. residents. So they're saying crime increased overall.
Right.
All right. During that time. And so with crime, you get all types of criminals, from serial killer down to pickpockets.
Bad check writers.
Yeah. This guy they interviewed said the first case he was involved in with in 1990, he was on a task force investigating the murders of 5 college students. All right. He says, we had DNA, but it was pretty crude at the time. Okay. We couldn't get DNA from hair. Now you can. You needed a lot of genetic material to be able to identify the DNA pattern. Now you don't. Okay. Right. Now you get spittle off of a coffee cup.
Yeah.
Cigarette butts. Yep. You name it. And it also says that serial killers can leave a digital fingerprint as well. This expert says that the proliferation of surveillance cameras and the advent of cell phone with GPS tracking capabilities have made it harder for serial killers to abduct their victims in the first place. All right. So somebody that might have been a serial killer may get caught on their first kill,
right.
And so is what this guy's alleging. So I tend to agree with that. They may, if they got away with one, they probably want to get that thrill again and try to get another one out. And cell phone data and DNA has made it more difficult because they get caught quicker.
Right.
All right. What's your favorite serial killer to read about?
Favorite serial killer to read?
I mean, I don't say they're favorite. I don't enjoy them. But.
Son of Sam.
Son of Sam.
The dog told me to do it.
Yeah, he was nuts.
Yeah.
He was crazy.
Yeah.
I tend to read about Bundy because he was such a charismatic and normal individual on the outside.
Yes.
But he was a serial rapist and murderer on the inside.
There's been a few good ones, though, that you could really get into. BTK or,
BTK was a normal, he was like a,
he was a scoutmaster and everything.
Like an HVAC repair guy or something. Yeah. He had a normal day, normal job. Yeah. And he worked in a church, all kind of things.
Was a scout leader and all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And his were sexual crimes mainly.
Yep.
This guy said that things have changed in the last few decades. Says fear around mass killings have increased and put people in high alert. People are naturally more on alert than they used to be. After World War II, we were in a kind of a state of, I won't say euphoria. The nation was running well. Right. We just won a major war. The economy was doing great, and we had a sense of well-being as a nation. Right. And that declined, as criminals started taking advantage of people. We saw an increase in crime. Hitchhiking used to be a thing.
I used to do it a lot.
I hitchhiked on Camp Geiger.
I hitchhiked everywhere, dude.
Geiger, when they'd be walking to PX with nothing, they'd hop in the back of the truck, But they'd give a Marine a ride back then. I'd always give Marines a ride on base, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On base is something different than downtown Philly.
Yeah. I hitchhiked up and down California when I was out there.
Yeah. It was a different time, man.
Yeah. It was like, hey, jump in, man. Where you headed? North. Okay, get in.
Right. I know one thing's changed. When I was a kid, unfortunately, a lot of these serial killers attack children, right?
Correct.
They're easy victims, and those kind of things. When I was a kid, we talked about it before. In the summers, I was going all the time. We were fishing, camping.
Yeah, we were never home.
Didn't have supervision,
Yeah, when we probably should have had a lot of supervision.
Right. I would never let my kid do that now.
No.
I'm there with her, or another parent I trust is there.
Yeah.
Or my wife or my oldest daughter.
Times have changed drastically.
Right. I'm even kind of a little sketchy about my oldest daughter. She's 21, being off doing stuff. It worries me.
Yeah. Mine's going to be 20 and she wants to drive to Florida on her own. I said, no, not happening.
Right.
Because you don't know.
Right. And because she's not aware of what's going on. She's glued to that phone all the time.
Yep.
She has no idea what's going on with 6 inches.
The real world is scary.
Yeah. This other professional says just general anxiety and alertness in public has contributed to that decline as well. So, let me pull up this article about the Atlanta murders in 1979 and 81. So this guy, we didn't have DNA, wasn't a real thing then. This guy got caught by the last child that was abducted and killed, was seen with him. He was holding hands, walking down the street with the kid, and they identified him. And then some of the carpet fibers on the victims, on all the victims, matched the carpet fibers in his house.
Yep.
And of course, he said he didn't do it, but he got 2 life sentences. How did he stay out of that was an electric chair back then. How did he stay out of that?
I have no idea.
Right. So in particular, in that case, the Atlanta murders, 2 separate FBI special agents testified that chances of the victims not having to come in contact with Williams was virtually impossible, based solely on the comparative rarity of the fibers which were found on the victims, which seemed to match the fibers which were found in the subject's car and home. So they're saying that, it was highly unlikely that all these kids would have the same fibers from his car at his house. That was the major evidence against the guy. And then they deliberated for 11 hours. So it wasn't a quick one. It was, they talked about it for a while.
Yeah.
So they had some later developments in that case as well. They said that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation at the time, who had been conducting a secret investigation into potential involvement of the Ku Klux Klan in the crimes, there was a separate theory that the KKK was involved. I remember
it.
I guess I was too young to remember this one, but you got me reading it now. They were investigating them in tandem as well, saying it might have had some.
Could have been the Klan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a special task force of missing and murdered children. Discovered members of the group may have been involved in the murder of victim Luby Geter. I think I'm saying that right. And may have been linked to the murders of 14 others. Allegedly, the family of Klans members living outside of Atlanta had hoped to ignite a race war in Atlanta. So their theory was that they were killing these black children to try to get a race war going. Right. That was just an alternative theory, but nothing ever came out of it.
No, it didn't pan out because that's not what it was.
Yeah, they didn't, the carpet fibers and all that stuff.
Although I'd like to see the Klan eradicated, but that's just me.
This guy was just crazy. How about that? Yeah. This guy was just nuts that did it. He did request a new trial in 91. And he was represented by Dershowitz, a big time. Yeah. I may remember that part when he had a new trial come up, because Dershowitz was on TV a lot back then. Yeah. So, investigators from both Atlanta and Georgia law enforcement agencies testified they had little or no knowledge of the Georgia Bureaus of Investigations, their investigation into the KKK. At the same hearing, an informant for GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, reported that in 1981, Charles Sanders had admitted to killing Geter while Whitaker was wearing a concealed microphone. All right. So they got that one child that was maybe, but what about the other 25?
Yeah.
That's a quick question, right? Yeah, it's an interesting case. Do you remember that one being on TV a lot?
Yeah. I was born in 1967, so I remember that case. I remember when it was broadcast. But again, like we talked earlier, stuff like that didn't happen in our area where I grew up, in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. We were a mob-run community. And everybody says, oh, we're the mob here. No, we literally were controlled by the mob. we're directly related to Buffalino crime family. Things like this didn't take place where I was at. The crimes that took place were because you crossed the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people wound up dead. State trooper got blown up, his whole house, his wife, his kids, his infant son. So when there was crimes took place, and it wasn't a lot of crimes taking place in short amount of times. These are big crimes, things like, you know, blowing up a state trooper investigator's house.
Right.
You know, but it was mob run. We didn't have this kind of stuff. The mob wouldn't have allowed that. But I do remember that being all over the news as a kid, and it was crazy. We couldn't believe it.
Right. He only was found guilty of 2 of the deaths. The rest they attributed to him, but it wasn't solid. Right.
Yeah.
But
they didn't have enough to hammer him on it.
Right. The other 2. And they actually came back and said that they did a later DNA testing in 2007, said that his hair fibers matched the ones that were on the victims. But a lot of people are saying this guy didn't do it, but most people are saying he did.
I'm pretty sure the evidence was overwhelming enough to show that he did do it in at least those 2 cases.
They had eyewitnesses on the last one. So it's rare that you get an eyewitness to a guy walking down the street with the last time they seen him, you know, holding hands with him. So, but I think it's interesting when you go back and look at some of the serial killers of the old too. You know, they got away with a lot back in the day.
Well, they did. Look at Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, they think that Holmes might have been Jack the Ripper. Remember Holmes? Because he had a gap in murders in the United States.
Yep.
And then that's when the murders picked up in
England. Yeah.
In England, then he might have came back and continued his House of Horrors in the United States.
It's true.
But yeah, they got away with more back then because it was very difficult to catch them.
Right.
You just had word of mouth. There was no cell phone.
Scotland Yard was on the case.
Scotland.
It's still pretty hard.
Yeah. Anything else on serial killers, Juice?
No, I got jokes, but other than that, no.
Let's not do serial killer jokes today.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, let's don't do those.
Yeah. He's another one. Have you read on him?
I've read a little bit about it.
He's another one. He was a very intelligent individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that saying there's a fine line between genius and insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an actual thing because some of those guys, they were predators. They weren't alpha males.
Right.
Huge difference. But everybody says, oh, they're, you know, big, high alpha male, big guys doing all it. They're not alpha males. They were predators. They preyed on weak.
They were usually picked on or more unassuming when they were younger too. You know what I mean? So,
but Dahmer was a very interesting case.
Yeah.
If anybody ever wants to read about him or John Wayne Gacy, those 2 right there, those are probably pretty good reading.
They enjoyed the torture part of.
Yes.
They were a little extra.
They a little masochistic.
Yeah. Now Dahmer probably wouldn't have got caught if he didn't decide to eat them.
Yeah.
He refrigerated the parts he liked to eat. And Gacy buried them under his house.
Yeah. So. Which is I find both behaviors really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you want to bury, unless you're going to revisit, and that's your token for your achievement of that murder?
Right.
Why would you bury him under your house?
So the Gacy one's interesting. I've read a lot about that one.
Yeah.
So the interesting part is he knew the cops were watching him.
Oh, yeah.
Like they talked.
Yeah.
And bought each other beers and stuff.
It's not like they were sneaking around.
They were just waiting on him some reason to get probable cause to get in that building.
Yep.
And they finally did. Yep. So, and they got him, but they knew he did it.
Yeah.
They just didn't have probable cause to get in there. So,
yeah.
And they finally got it. And there was a book, I forgot the name of it, but they interviewed the detectives that were on that one.
Right. Right.
And they were like, it was the most frustrating thing ever done in my life. Because they knew.
They knew he did it. They knew.
And those bodies
were there. Hands were tied.
And they finally, I forgot what got them in there. Something silly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something very basic.
Yeah, and they got reason to go in, and they found those bodies. Well, they smelled it.
Yeah,
and then they
which if you've been around a decomposing body, it is a very unique smell that once you've smelled it once, it's a smell you never forget.
Right. Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah.
And it sticks to your nose.
And I would think just the mailman walking past that had that odor hit him in the nose, that would have been probable cause enough to enter the residence.
Right.
You know, to get that search warrant to get in there.
I don't know if smell's a probable cause, though.
Sure it is. I could pull you over in a vehicle. Well, I did when I was policing. Pull somebody over because I smelled the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle in front of me.
That's probable cause to search the car.
That's probable cause right there.
Okay.
Yeah, right here in Fife.
Oh yeah, the big chief.
Yeah,
the marijuana.
Yeah,
the ganja.
So yeah, I think you can get away with it when it's a decomposing body.
He had a bunch under there. He had 30 something.
Yeah, yeah. He was saving them for a rainy day, I guess.
He would get the homosexual and seduce them basically back to his house.
Yeah,
and then they would torture them for days.
Yeah,
until they died.
Yeah,
and then he would bury them under the house. So.
Yeah, I mean, the psychology of a serial killer is very interesting when you start reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, I get fixated on other things. I get fixated on guns, tattoos, obviously, knife making. I get fixated on techniques for putting handles on and stuff. But to be fixated on the collection of a body that you've taken that life, I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I don't get it.
I guess that's why we're not in prison for serial killing.
Now, don't get me wrong. I can slam a box of Captain Crunch. I can slay that cereal right there. Captain Crunch is good.
That's a C cereal, not the S cereal.
Yes, but man, I'd eat a box of Captain Crunch right now.
Mine is Rice Krispies with a bunch of sugar in it.
Oh yeah, see,
I like the sugar at the bottom of the milk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I can't do that. I'm fat enough the way it is. That's why I don't eat those.
Right. All right, we're going to close it up. That was a good one, Juice. Thanks for your input.
No. Thank you for having me.
We'll be back next week for some more.
It's always a genuinely fun experience.
It is. Gives you something to do, right?
It does.
All right. We'll see y'all. Hey, everybody. Mackie here. I just wanted to go over our name change of our company. So this is the Hidden Threads podcast, but we also have a company. It was named Mackie Outlaw Private Investigators. Now, with our expansion into other states and franchise owners buying into our franchise, we wanted to make it something where it's more of a team concept than just one person's name. Yep, that is my real name, Mackie Outlaw. I get asked that every day. Hey, is that your real name? It is, in fact, on my birth certificate. But we have changed the name to ShadowNet. So the name comes from us working in the shadows for people all the time, and net for network, since we are a cyber forensics company. So we combine them together to ShadowNet Inc., and you'll see it on our advertisements and our Facebook page and other social media where you see it. So, yep, it's the same great company, same great results, just a different name, ShadowNet. Look for us on the web. Thanks.